Hi everyone, my name is Julie. This is Keep Calm with Books and Coffee. I talk about books on this channel, mainly books about magic, and if you want to see more of that, you can subscribe down below. Today we are going to be doing the Get to Know My Taste tag. Hello everyone, so I am really excited to do this tag today. I think this is such a great idea. It was created by Sam from Thoughts on Tomes and Mari from My Name is Marina's, and I have been wanting to do it, but recently my friend Brittany did a chattier version of this tag and tagged me in it, and I took that as an excuse to do this because I've been looking and watching these for a little while now because I think they are a really fun way to find new booktubers. That is the goal of the tag, to get to know your taste so that you can find people that you line up with or are interested in, kind of like the booktube newbie tag, but in a more broad sense. You can do this no matter where you are in your channel journey. I, like many other people, have tried to find booktubers that line up with me and agree with my taste, and it is difficult on YouTube to find those people. So I am really excited to do this tag and hopefully find others who have done it and enjoy the same kind of books I do. So let's jump into the questions. The first one is, how do you rate books? Give a quick rundown of how you do star ratings, or if you don't use star ratings, how you evaluate books. So I do use star ratings, and I have for a long time. I usually include those in my wrap-ups and my reviews. I like to use a 5-star rating system, but I do use half and quarter stars because I do feel like at times books do get down to that point of, if I enjoyed them 3.25 or 3.5 or 3.75, it's not quite a 4-star. It's usually that 3 to 4-star range that end up being those like quarter-star breakdowns, whereas the half stars are kind of all over the place as far for me personally. So in my brain, usually books start around a 3-star, like right in the middle, and then they go up or down from there because I usually know what I like in a book. I am usually picking up books that I think I'm going to enjoy. So the premise starts me somewhere in the middle of my rating, and then I kind of go up or down based on the quality of the book, how much I personally like it, if there's any like issues within the book as far as pacing, problematic content, book like the way I think the story should go versus how it actually goes, characters, all of those things. So I usually kind of start my thoughts that we are in the middle and it can go from there, like hopefully. So for me, a 5-star has the wow factor. It is something that was written specifically for me. I enjoyed all the pieces of it. I thought that the pacing, the story, the politics, all those pieces within the book, since I usually read fantasy, there's usually politics, romance, whatever, everything worked for me perfectly. If I did see issues within the book, there's something within it that overcame that. My enjoyment pushed it over that, or I didn't see any issues. So it's a perfect book for me. And I don't necessarily think that a 5-star is always a new favorite, but it is something that I read and wowed me, and it's going to be a favorite, at least for now. 4 stars is a pretty common rating for me because I know my taste pretty well at this point. I know what kind of books I want to pick up. If I am picking it up, I'm thinking I'm going to enjoy it, and I am a pretty chill reader overall, so I do end up enjoying most of the things I read. 4 stars are things that I really enjoyed, all of the pieces. I think they had really good potential, but there's something that didn't quite work 100% for me, or it just didn't have that full wow factor like I talked about with 5-star. I think 5-star is a specific feeling for me, whereas 4-star is something I really, really enjoyed, but I didn't quite get that feeling. 3 stars for me means that there were just as many good things as bad things. I enjoyed the book, but I didn't really get wowed by it. There were issues along the way, but I still enjoyed a lot of the pieces, and I was interested enough in what was going on. I was curious enough about the story, the plot line, what was going to happen with the characters, that I finished the book, and that I wasn't hating it at any point. Usually it just means that I read it and it was fine. As my friend Aoife would say, it was a book and I read it. 2 stars is usually a book that I am having major issues with for one reason or another. It is a book that I had hope for most of the book, and then the ending ruined it for me, or something in the overall story didn't work for me. I'm having major issues with this book. Characters didn't work, something didn't make sense. I really was not enjoying my time with it, but I did finish it for some reason or another, because I don't often give out 2 stars, but they do happen every once in a while. Usually this is something for me personally, because I am a DNFer. I will give up on a book pretty quickly. At this point, if I give a book 2 stars, it means that I was seeing promise in the book. I thought something could come around and it didn't end up happening. So I was disappointed in that book. 2 star to me is not an angry rating. It's usually I'm disappointed in how things worked out. And then 1 star. 1 stars are so very rare for me because I usually end up DNFing the book before I get to a 1 star. I will have had to read this book for some reason, like a book club, a buddy read. Even buddy reads, I usually end up DNFing if I'm not feeling it this much. But 1 star is like there was problems all over the place, problematic content everywhere. I was hate reading this book basically. I didn't enjoy it or understand it. I didn't get connected to the characters. I just hated every minute of it. So if I rate a book a 1 star, it means that I would have rather DNF'd it, but I had to finish it for some reason. I can't even think of a book that I have rated 1 star lately because I usually just DNF the book. And like I said, I am a DNFer. I will DNF a book at 20 pages, 2 chapters, halfway through the book. It doesn't really matter. There is a point where I am just like, I'm not interested. It's not working for me. I will just give up. And I feel like those books would be the 1 and 2 stars of my life, but I usually give up before then. Second question is, how do you approach reviewing books? What is your review style? Are you analytical, emotional, casual, or structured? I feel like I am a more casual reviewer, especially in writing reviews and also my wrap-ups and things like that. I usually am pretty casual. I don't have a specific set of things that I talk about. I usually end up talking about the characters the most because that's what I'm there for at the end of the day. I am a very character-focused reader, and even though I want there to be a plot, I usually end up mostly focused on the characters and how those relationships and those characters grow over the course of the book. Misty from the Book Rat, who is a channel that really got me into BookTube, and I think her channel is dormant at this point. I don't think she's posting anymore, but I remember her saying, and this stuck with me for so long, if I don't like the characters, if I don't care about the characters, why am I reading the book? And that is just something that I have found true time and time again, that if you can't connect me to your characters, I will put the book down. So at the end of the day, that's usually what I end up talking about in my review because that is what I care about the most in a book. However, I do try to highlight things like tropes and things I did or didn't like specifically because that's usually where I find people are gonna figure out if that book works for them. If I'm writing a review, I want to try to highlight those things so that people can use that to determine if they're gonna read the book or not. I do also film structured reviews for usually series or individual books. I try to do this occasionally. I want to get into it more, but I usually life just gets in the way. But I do like to film those, and those are a bit more structured. I usually have a script for those, and I usually write things out, the highlights that I want to hit, and any content warnings I want to talk about, tropes that are prevalent in the book, have a specific description and those type of things. But day to day, I'm much more casual than that. Number 3 is, what is the book that made you a reader? Whether it was your first favorite or the one that got you hooked, what is the book that started it all? Now, I can remember being a reader for as long as I can remember, honestly, forever. I have this book, which is a children's book, on my shelf at the bottom where all my kids' books are. This is a very early reading, and it is falling apart because I read it over and over and over again. So I can remember reading for a long time, but the books that really stick out to me that kept me in reading in the early years are Tamora Pierce. I read her Alana Quartet over and over again. I can remember checking that out over and over again from the library. And also that when I got old enough and knew what eBay was, I started searching on there and bought like a set of her books so that I could read them myself. And I remember like begging my dad to help me do that. So that series, that author specifically, I also was really, really into the Heartland books by Lauren Brooke when I was a kid. Just absolutely adored those. I have the entire set still because I loved those. What reintroduced me to reading, so that was like my younger years, and then when I got out of college, I remember reading Percy Jackson and the Hunger Games, and those really starting my reading journey and really like pulling me back into being a reader and someone who reads books consistently, reads 100 books a year rather than just every so often. Like I really feel like those two series were the ones that drug me back in. I think it was after college. It might have been post high school. I can't remember the timeline exactly, but like after I got out of a school setting, I remember buying the Percy Jackson books at a Books A Million like over the summer with a friend and just absolutely devouring them. And then I also remember the Hunger Games doing that the same thing. Number 4 is, do you have a genre niche? Are there certain genres you gravitate towards, or do you read widely across all genres? As I say in my intro, I mostly read books that involve magic, and that could be anything with magic. Like I really love urban fantasy, but I'll also read high fantasy, but I also do dabble in like romantasy, usually more cozy than high romantasy, but I do dabble a little bit all over the place as far as fantasy goes. And then I do like romance, I do like thrillers, I do like mysteries, so I do dabble across other places. Usually, even if it's a genre blend, it has magic in it, I'm there, but I do dabble in other things. I do try other genres and I do like to explore. I would say I'm an omnivorous reader since I do dabble all over the place, but I would say my niche is also fantasy. Number 5 is, do you generally prefer character-driven or plot-driven stories? I am a character-driven reader. I am mostly focused on the characters. I'm mostly there for them, as I talked about a little bit before in this very tag. If I don't like the characters, if I can't get connected to them, I will usually dip out. I understand that not every character needs to be likable, and I can jive with, an unlikable character, but I need someone to root for. If I can't get in anyone's corner, I am going to dip out because I need someone to connect with in a book. If everyone's terrible, or if I don't like anyone, or if I just can't, find that connection, that foothold within the story, I'm done, because that's who I'm there for. I do still want plot within the story, at least a little bit, or a semblance of plot, but I will ignore a lot of plot holes. I will get swept up in what is going on with the characters I tend to really, the first time, especially with like a book that I'm really enjoying, I will rush through everything to find out what happens to the characters, how things resolve for them, and then I will need to reread to understand everything that happened with the plot. And I am an avid rereader because of that, because personally, the first time through I will read and enjoy a book, but if it's something that I really, really liked, I will pick up on even more upon reread, and sometimes I need that because I got too excited about what was going to happen at the end, and if everyone was going to survive, and if my ship is going to get together, and all of those things, and sort of just forget about the plot slightly. I don't, not totally, but just like a little bit. Number 6 is, what is a book you love so much that you don't care if others like it? What's that one book that you love enough for everyone? And for me, this is Persuasion by Jane Austen. I love Persuasion. I love Anne Elliot. I love that entire book. And not everybody feels that way. It is not the most popular Jane Austen book. It is also like kind of outside of what I read now, but when I read all of Jane Austen's works, I fell in love with Persuasion, and I go back to it every single time. I reread it once a year. I adore it. I love it. It's my book. It is my book. I love Anne Elliot. I am an Anne Elliot. I identify with her. I feel like I get more and more out of that book every time I read it. And yeah, I love it. I love it. and it's not the most popular of Jane Austen's books, and when other people read it and they don't love it, I'm like, I can understand why you don't love it, but I do, and I will keep loving it, and I will love it enough for all of us, like the question said. Number 7 is, what's a book you love so much that if someone doesn't like it, you know your reading tastes don't align? The book or books where a difference of opinion is a strong indicator of different reading preferences. And I think I have different bellwethers for this depending on the genre, because honestly, some of these books, as I was thinking about it, I disagree with some of my very good friends and books that we align with in other areas, even though, you know, some of the books that I thought I could use for this, I was like, well, we don't agree with this book, but we agree on a lot of other books. Like The Raven Cycle, I could say that because it's one of my favorite series of all time. I love it, but it's a really hard series to get into, and I know that it's a hard first book to like get through that as a hurdle, and so I don't want to use that, because even though I adore it, and I think if you get deeper in the series, we might understand, like if you get deeper than the first book and then you don't like it, maybe that's a bellwether, but like I know the first book is tough, so I don't want to use that. But what I've come up with, especially for like fantasy and sci-fi readers, I would say The Long Way to a Small Angry Planet is one that if you don't love that book, that might be one that we are not going to line up on, because it's a very character focused book. There's not a ton of plot. I love all the characters in it. I love how much diversity is in that book, and I love the world that Becky Chambers creates in there. I also love how it's hopeful but also emotionally devastating. It's got found family. I really love the blend of things there. So if you don't love that book and you actually like hate it or anything like that, I feel like our tastes aren't going to line up, because it's not necessarily that book for me, but it's the blend of things and the level of plot and characters and found family and everything in there are ideal for me. I would also say, as a couple of other books that I absolutely adore, and if you don't like them, maybe we're not going to line up, because like sometimes I think the answer to a question like this is a book that you like, that you know that it's weird. So for me, like The Starless Sea by Erin Morgenstern is kind of a weird book. I absolutely loved it, and I feel like if you don't like that book, we're gonna know that we're not gonna line up on other things. Also, this one isn't as weird, but one that's kind of an older book that I love is Uprooted by Naomi Novik. If you don't like that book, if you don't feel like you want to read that book, that's one that I loved, and I even went back to it and ended up loving it after I put it down for a while. So both of those are another good bellwether for me, that I love the blend of things in there. I love the way the characters are, like as far as how much they grow. I like the magic. I love the exploration of the worlds in both of those books. So I think if you don't like any or at least one of those books, we're not going to find like common ground in books. But I don't think there's one book. I don't think there's one. I'm not a very good decision maker, and I can't choose just one, so there had to be multiple. Number 8 is, what is in your trash pocket? What books, tropes, or themes that you know are bad but you love them anyway? And this is a shifter hero who is a little bit possessive. There's a line here that's very fine where it can be too much, but I specifically love an urban fantasy hero who is a shifter, who is a little bit overbearing. Do I want that in real life? No. But I kind of love it in my urban fantasy. I love urban fantasy in general, which I think some people feel is a trash pocket item, but I love it. Nope. Paranormal urban fantasy, nope, that is my jam. It's my favorite. I love Ailana Andrews. I love Melanie Singh. I love, who else is on here that could work for this? But that's my trash pocket. A shifter hero who is gonna burn the world down for their significant other. And that's usually associated with like a lot of pack dynamics, which I love. So that's my trash pocket right there. Shifters and possessive heroes. Number 9 is, do you have any deal breakers in books, something that if present immediately turns you off from a book? And this one for me is something that I actually don't know that it's present until I'm deeper in the book, but it definitely could make me DNF, or it's going to be like a demerit as far as the rating goes, because I don't like it when we have someone within a romance couple who is constantly telling me that they don't deserve the other person, that they've done something that like negates any good that they're doing now, and this annoys me to no end. If you're telling me that about yourself consistently, I believe you. And I don't think you should be in a relationship with this person if you are constantly telling me that, you know, I've done these terrible things and I don't deserve so-and-so, and how could they possibly love me? I don't deserve that, blah, blah, blah. Especially if we get to the end and it's something that is like something that was out of their control, something that happened to them as a kid, something that was, you know, because of their situation in life, like things that were not their own actions. I'm so mad. I'm done. I hate it. I hate it so much because you've convinced me that this relationship isn't going to work. And for a romance book specifically, the happily ever after isn't no longer believable for me, because I believe you, because you keep telling me that. So authors have to walk a very fine line with this for me. There might be something that they have done and they're trying to redeem themselves for, and that'll work, but it's more when it's just like they're within their own head, or, you know, a class difference or something, that it's constantly like, I don't deserve this person. It drives me insane and I don't like it. So yeah, that's something that I will nope out on a book for, or that I, you know, will definitely not enjoy about a book. Number 10 is, what's a strong opinion you have about a book released within the last year, whether it is overrated, underrated, or just a take you need to share. I am not good at reading new releases, to be completely honest. I don't tend to keep up. I'm usually a backlist reader, so this is a little bit tough. I'm gonna say that Quicksilver is overrated, and Bride was mismarketed as a romantasy when it is a paranormal romance. Those are my two takes. So those are probably two of the most recent releases that I've read that I have a take on. Number 11 is, what do you look for in writing? What makes a book stand out to you? Is it prose style, theme, voice, structure, or something else? Usually it's themes. Usually I want to read books specifically because of themes. I'm not big on super purple prosy writing, but I can be into it. Just depends on how the author's doing it. Structure doesn't really matter to me. I'm not really necessarily looking for writing. That's the thing. I've talked a little bit about how I'm a big character-driven reader. I'm usually looking more at the themes, the synopsis, what we're doing within the story. Writing can put me off, but it's usually a structure thing. If you're jumping into the story too quickly, if you're not explaining things, if I'm confused, if you're not connecting your points, if you're not introducing your characters in a way that I get connected to them, I've talked about that a lot already. Those are all things that will put me off the book. But the style and like prose usually aren't something that are a deal breaker for me. It's usually the content of the book that is what I'm getting, whether I'm going to keep reading or not. Number 12 is, how do you decide what to read next? Do you plan ahead, mood read, or follow external factors, hype, recommendations, arcs, etc.? For me, I do a little bit of all of this. I mainly am a mood reader. I try to pick a TBR every month with my TBR game, but there's no punishment if I don't stick to that, because, for example, this month I did pick a TBR with that TBR game, but I was in a massive slump, so I ended up reading mainly whatever I wanted to, that I could make myself read, because I was in a massive slump, but I'm not going to punish myself for that. Also, I try to do themed vlogs, but that often doesn't work out for me because I usually end up putting myself in a slump. So I'm going to try not to do that too much anymore. I'm trying to gear myself more towards just reading vlogs now. Whatever I'm reading goes in the vlog rather than trying to read to a theme, because if I do too much of that themed reading, I don't want to read anymore. I do get wrapped up in hype. If there's a book that everyone's talking about, I will try to get my hands on it and give it a shot, but it doesn't always work out, or it might not fit my mood, so we don't end up doing that. I do take recommendations from friends. I do buddy read with a lot of friends, so those are all things that help me decide what to read next. I try to stay on top of my arcs, but it's a lot of mood reading around here. It's a lot of what did I just read, and do I want to read something that is exactly like that or the opposite? So that's usually what ends up happening, but I don't have a lot of structure in deciding what I want to read next. It's just whatever I want to read next. Number 13 is, where do you get inspiration for your booktube content? What sparks your video ideas, other creators, trends, personal reading experiences, etc. And for me, something that inspires me, and it's not a one-to-one inspiration, is just watching booktube, watching people create videos, come up with ideas, talk about books. I watch a lot of booktube, and if I'm not watching booktube, I'm not inspired to make content, whether that's just watching my friends do vlogs and watching them do a haul or an unhaul or do a really cool new series that they've come up with, or watching sprints. Like, all of these things inspire me. They help keep my creativity brain working, creating, churning out ideas. But it's not like, if I see someone create a cool concept, it's not like I am going to copy that concept. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm just saying, watching booktube, reading books, consuming bookish content all help spark ideas in me, whether it's new ideas, or it could just be that, I watch someone do a book haul and I'm like, oh yeah, I haven't done that in 3 months. I should probably do one of those. So it can be really simple, or it can just be keeping my ideas going and inspiring me to find new books, read new books. It's also helping me hear about books that I want to read, which, inspires content, all those good things. So it's a little bit of everything, but usually just consuming bookish content inspires bookish content. Number 14 is, if you could make any book go viral right now, what would it be? A book you think deserves more attention and why? And like I said before, I can't choose just one. The first is God Killer. Am I ever going to stop talking about this book? No, because I love this book to pieces. I didn't put this in as a book that, is going to make or break my ability to think we're going to get along as book people, because I know it's a journey book. I know that not everybody enjoys it as much as I do, but it's so good. I think it's so good. I love it. So I want everybody to read it, despite knowing not everybody I've recommended this to loves it. However, I just want more people to read it, because if more people read it, there will be more people that love it. So I want more people to read this. And also When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill. I read this a couple of years ago and was recently reminded how much I want to reread it, because I absolutely adored it when I read it, and I'd like to reread it and annotate it. But this is such an excellent book. It's such an incredible book about female rage and awesome themes, and I love this book so much, and I want more people to read it, because I feel like it gets no hype at all, and I adore it. Number 15 is, who are some booktubers with reading taste similar to yours? So first I'm going to mention Brittany from Brittany Loves Reading, because she is the one who inspired me to do this tag, because she did a chattier version of it, but the two of us line up on books a lot, specifically fantasy books. If Brittany is talking about it, I want to check it out, because I just usually like it. I usually like what she's talking about when it comes to fantasy. And then I also want to talk about Leandra from Leandra the TBR0. We also line up a lot on fantasy. I dabble in sci-fi and mystery, and she talks about a lot of those as well. And usually if it's a mystery genre blend that Leandra is talking about, I want to check it out, because those have really worked out for me. Like things like The Tainted Cup, I pick up from her and want to run with because I adore them. I'm also going to mention Danny from Danny Dabbles. Danny reads more high fantasy than I do, but she also talks about a lot of really interesting fantasy books that I want to try. So definitely want to mention her here because we do line up on some things, but also she just reads a lot of things that sound interesting to me and that I want to explore someday. I'm also going to mention Margaret from The Word Nerd. Margaret has so many interesting books that she talks about, and we line up in a lot of places. We like a lot of the same types of stories, and if Margaret is talking about it, I want to check it out. So that's another great one. Great channel, great person. And I'm also going to mention Steph from the Novelty Corner because Steph reads a lot more contemporary romance than I do, but I get so many awesome urban and paranormal romance recommendations from her. And even when she talks about contemporary romance, I want to listen. It's like the way she talks about her romances make me want to try them, even though a lot of times I end up not reading them because I get distracted by a fantasy book. But her recommendations are solid and I love her content. So those are a few booktubers that I would definitely recommend to you who have similar taste to me, or, you know, if they don't line up completely, their content is awesome. And if you don't line up with me exactly, maybe you'll line up with one of them even more. All of these creators and anyone I mentioned will be linked down below. If I mentioned you, consider yourself tagged, but no pressure if you aren't feeling it, or like Brittany, you've already done it. But that is it for me today. If you have any thoughts or feelings or want to share anything about my answers or the books that I talked about today, please let me know down below. If you aren't feeling chatty, go ahead and leave me your favorite dessert emoji below. You can also like and subscribe down there. Both of those help my channel out. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you next time. Bye!